Amazon River just starts one drop every 8 seconds, one drop every 8 seconds, one drop every 8 seconds. Shalini Mataji, I don't think it's enough to even fill one pail after one day, right? But this has been constantly going on again and again and again and again and again and again. And today, right, Amazon is the biggest river. Not Nile. Nile is the longest, but if you look at in terms of the depth of water, Amazon is the greatest because of constantly dripping from the mountain. Right? If you look at Amarnath, right? If you look at the shivling, which is formed by I don't know, statellite or whatever you call that, the shivling, right? The droplets of water. It is not that suddenly, in May when the gufa opens, you see the shivling is there. No, it's constant drops of water, right? Constant drops of water. If you look at Dhruva Maharaj, he was not able to perfect himself and see, have the darshan of Vishnu ji just in by being hardworking in one day. He had to constantly do this, isn't it? So just like for us also, we cannot like one day on a Sunday, be in the mood to read Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and then from Monday to Saturday, theek hai, chalega. It doesn't work like that. Okay. It has to be constant. Any reflections? Bhagavanji.
Prabhu, can I say something?
Yes, Ravindra Prabhu.
Okay, so I think what Dr. Anna has mentioned is linked to actually two verses of
Yes.
the Bhagavad Gita,
Yeah,
837 and 1838, actually.
exactly.
Conversely, if you talk about striving for material objects and sense gratification, and what you'll feel is a sense of high and um, is nectar at first, but then poison later. 1836 is poison at first and nectar later. So
Correct.
the converse is true. I thought both verses would be linked nicely, and it is true. You will always be striving for pleasure, and pleasure you want more and more and more. And then when you want more and more and more, your unhappiness increases more and more and more. So I find it very, very nice. It's very relevant.
Yeah.
Uh, whether it's a balance of and pain and happiness, or pain and striving for success. I think Dr. Anna's writing is still in the material realm, where she talks about striving for discomfort and happiness, still within the material realm. But it's a good thought process to link us as devotees to see Bhagavatam reading or any sort form of spiritual service and devotion as doing spiritual activities in the material world, not seeing it as pain, but seeing it as a form of striving for continued happiness across all the activities, every single moment. So that's my own thought and further reflection on her writing.
Yeah,
Very good.
correct. So there are two verses in the Bhagavad Gita which explains this. One is um, what appears initially as nectar and which is actually poison, and then poison and nectar later on. One is 18.37 and the other one is 18.38. And yeah, exactly, Prabhu. Thanks for sharing your realization. Actually, I got this realization when I was watching a podcast where this young entrepreneur was coming up with a tool to assist teenagers in delayed gratification. And while I was hearing him, I said, wow, this is exactly what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, right? And therefore, I actually connected it together. And that convinces me more and more that actually Bhagavad Gita is the right tool book for all of us. Everything is there. It is just that we may not understand it today. In time to come, we can understand this, right? With our acharyas' explanations, etc. When you start reading more and more, and you realize that actually Krishna will allow us to connect the dots. So, yeah, thanks for sharing your realizations on this. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so let's move on to today's class. Half an hour is gone. Oops. But that's all right. We always learn. Okay. So today we will get a glimpse into the spiritual world, the description of the kingdom of God. So my question is, why we need to know about the kingdom of God? For what? Anush Prabhu, why?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, so that we can understand where we are and where we are supposed to be in our rightful place actually.
Okay, it can inspire us. Huh? It can inspire us to, work hard towards this. The material realm is full of miseries. It might look like, nectarian, but we never know what's going to happen in the next minute. Wonderful. But if we take this even further, right? Actually, for a devotee, the devotee just wants to hear about the pastimes of the Lord, the description of the Lord, right? The activities of the Lord, the residence of the Lord. The devotee is just so pleased doing this. And the devotee does not even have this desire that, wow, one day I might go there. For a devotee, the devotee is very, very pleased just doing service. The devotee is not even interested that, oh, at the end of my life, I need to get into the spiritual world. I don't want to come back. That is the epitome of devotional service. All right. And it may reach that stage, but nothing wrong in desiring, right? Nothing wrong in desiring a place in the spiritual world. Krishna will accord it if he so desires. So let's begin. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubaye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Prayasta Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloker Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Okay, so we are on chapter 15 of Canto number 3, and the first verse of chapter 15 reads that no sane man or woman can tolerate non-devotees giving trouble to devotees, and therefore you will remember from last week's class that Diti, right? Diti wanted a child, right? And she approached her husband, Kashyapa Muni. The union happened at not the right time, and therefore, not the best of souls went into her womb, right? And therefore, she was conceiving not the best of souls. And her husband, Kashyapa Muni, explained to her what was going to happen in time to come, right? Anyone remembers what's going to happen in time to come?
So there were three: Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, and what do you call it? Not Meghnad, Ravana, and there was another one, and
Yeah.
the third. There are three different. So there was choices given to Vijay, and I don't know the second name.
Mhm.
And then they took the choice of going instead of going through 7 lives, there are 5 lives. They will go to 3 lives, which will be against the Lord. I think
Wonderful.
that's what semi memory.
Very good, Prabhu. Thank you. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, very nice, very inspiring. Right. So Jaya and Vijaya, the gatekeepers, right? They had unknowingly offended these 4 small Kumaras. The 4 Kumaras were enthusiastically wanting to see the Supreme Lord. They passed 6 different gates and finally they were coming to the 7th gate. And that is why if you go to Tirupati, they say the Lord of the 7 hills, right? So they were coming to the 7th gate and then Jaya and Vijaya stood there and said, you all are coming maybe to disturb the Supreme Lord. Who are you guys? Like small children. And therefore they immediately blocked the way. And the small boys were quite upset. They were really upset. And therefore then finally, Lord Vishnu came and said that, because you have offended my devotee, right? You will be punished because these are 4 pure devotees and they are not given my association, or you had stopped. But then they cried and said that, you can punish us anything, but never allow us to forget you. It's amazing because when the Lord came as when they came, Jaya and Vijaya came as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, Ravan and Kunkaran and Shishupal and Dantakvatra. Do you know that they were always remembering the Lord? Right? Because Jay and Vijay said that we must never forget you. They were always remembering, but it was not to give pleasure to the Lord per se. All right, it was not favorable service. It was not favorable remembrance, but it was unfavorable remembrance. We want to kill, right? But again, we know that this is a big drama. Right? It's a big, big, big drama. So thank you very much, Prabhu. And therefore, instead of 7 lives as a devotee of Vishnu, they came as in 3 lives as the enemy of Vishnu. Right? Took birth as enemies. Wonderful. And therefore, Diti already knew that Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha are in my womb. Can you imagine how much of difficulties these 2 sons of mine and Kashyap are going to be causing the devotees? And therefore, you know what she did? She held on to her pregnancy for 100 years. 9 months already, our Matajis, they can't take it. 100 years, Diti kept the pregnancy. Anyone else kept the pregnancy for more than 1 year? Can you remember who?
Wife of Shivedvyas.
Exactly.
Yes.
How many years?
9 years, I believe.
No, it's either 12 or 16. All right, sometimes they say 12, sometimes they say 16. So 12 to 16 years. And when the Lord came out, when Sukadev Goswami came out from her womb, he was like a teenage boy. All right, so she waited for 100 years so that at least she could save the demigods from the disturbances for that period. Because while she was conceiving, also what happened was the negative energy was emanating throughout the entire universe. And it was darkness throughout the universe. And it's explained herewith as being caused by the embryo created in the womb of Diti by the semen of Kashyapa Muni. Right? So you see, the embryos were able to cause this negative energy outside. At the same time, the energy outside can also affect the embryo. That is why they always say that when a woman is is pregnant, she should listen to the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, listen to Kirtan, etc. Right? Because the child also remembers. The child hears this and the child remembers. Give me an instance where the child had remembered.
Sukhdev Swami.
Abhimanyu.
Abhimanyu, okay. Who else? Sukadev Prabhu, wonderful. Sukadev, who else? Sukadev Goswami, who else?
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj, wonderful. Prahlad Maharaj, yes. Okay. The father, who is the father? Hiranyakashipu. Right? He was saying, no, I am the supreme person. Right? And the son heard from Brahmaji, right? While the mother was carrying him. No, heard from Narada Muni while the mother was carrying him. Right? So that's the potency. Even in our own congregation, we have a Mataji who did that. And in fact, while she was giving birth, she told all the she told the gynecologists and the nurses in the maternity ward. Nowadays in Kandang Karbao, they have this. Prabhuji, can you mute Karuna Mataji?
Yes.
Yeah. So she requested the nurses, the ward nurses, to play Prabhupada singing the Maha Mantra. And the Indian nurses were shocked. She said, you are Chinese, you are listening to Indian music. And then she says, no, that's our very own Dorothy Mataji. So then the demigods, prayed to Brahma, please look upon us mercifully, for we have fallen into a miserable condition. Because of the darkness, all our work has been suspended. Right? So now the demigods are feeling this darkness throughout the universe. And therefore, they prayed. So now let's get back to these four Kumaras. Okay, let's go back in time. Before Diti and Kashyapa Muni united, and before the two embryos were in the womb, let's discuss what is actually happening. So before these four Kumaras reached the Vaikuntha planets, right? Just imagine they are now walking towards the Vaikuntha planets. So how do they actually go to the Vaikuntha planets from any part of this universe? Let's say the four Kumaras are on Earth. Then how will they go up to the Vaikuntha planets? Anuj Prabhu, want to try? How can these personalities just go up to wherever they want? For Anuj Prabhu to go from Tanamera to Little India, Tough Road Temple, also it takes a lot of time. Is there any echo? Because my wife is cooking for Krishna in the kitchen and she's hearing the class.
No, there's no echo.
Wonderful. Okay.
So these four Kumaras, I think, their spiritual practice is like they were liberated souls actually. And that's why they did not, engage in progeny. What Brahma told them. They were already self-realized souls, and they knew the objective of their life, and they wanted to only, sing the Lord's praises and kirtan. So they achieved the nature of the Lord, as is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna says that if you always think about me, converse about me, you will attain my nature. So probably that is one of the reasons.
Wonderful. Right. So they were so advanced in their spiritual practice, but they were Brahmavadis, right? They were Brahmavadis where they felt that, yes, the Supreme Person exists as a person, but the Brahman effulgence is greater than the Supreme Person himself. The Brahman effulgence is even greater than the Paramatma. So they were Brahmavadis, right? And in their perfection of meditation, of devotion, maybe in their perfection of yoga, in connecting with the Brahman, they had perfected and received these Asta Siddhis. These Asta Siddhis, some of even the yogis in today's world, they have this. They can become the lighter than the lightest, heavier than the heaviest. They can travel at the speed of even faster than light, right? They can materialize whatever they want in their hand, but that does not make them God. All right. So the yogis, they can perfect themselves to such a stage where they receive these Asta Siddhis from the Supreme Lord. And therefore, these four Kumaras, they could actually travel wherever they want, just like Narada Muni. Okay. So thank you, Prabhu. So they went up, they wanted to see the Lord. So, and thus traveling all over the universes, the Kumaras also entered the spiritual sky, for they were freed from all material contamination. Right? You'll remember in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says very clearly also, one who has controlled his mind and senses, the super soul is reached. Remember? Right? So some of our spiritual masters, probably Srila Prabhupada, for certain, not probably, Srila Prabhupada, he had controlled his mind, his senses, and therefore he was able to communicate directly with the Supreme Lord in his heart. So similarly, the four Kumaras also, right? They had controlled their mind and therefore they could communicate with the super soul in the hearts. So these small four boys, they went up to the spiritual sky and they realized that, wow, in the spiritual sky, there are many, 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 many planets. And they are known as the Vaikuntha planets. One is for Nrsingadev, one is for Rama, etc. All right. And within these planets, right, the Lord is also present as Lord Vaikuntha. Just a minute. As Lord Vaikuntha and also as Vishnu, right? And therefore, everyone is actually in awe and reverence with the Lord. Right? So in the spiritual sky, there are spiritual planets which are known as Vaikunthas, which are the residents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his expansion. And all the pure devotees, someday you will all be there, all right, are worshipped by the residents of all the material planets. Okay. And in this spiritual sky, right, it's called Vaikuntha because the residents of these Vaikuntha planets, they are free from all anxiety. There's no need to worry about birth, the pain of death, the pain of old age, the pain of disease, the pain of losing weight, gaining weight, all that, no need to worry. There was no anxiety at all. Okay. On the other hand, the residents of the material planets are always afraid of birth, death, disease, old age. We do not know what is going to happen in the next minute. We are all full of anxiety. All right. Therefore, Vaikuntha is the place where there is no anxiety. Right. So you see these four very, very, very cute boys. And do you remember their names?
Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanat Kumara, and Sananda.
Wonderful. Yes. Okay. Right. And they have no material desires, but sometimes they travel all over the universe according to their own accords to preach devotional service. And so they went, right, from one gate to another. They passed that 6 gates. But now let's look at what's happening as they traverse from one gate to another. In the Vaikuntha planets, all the residents, wow, they are all similar in form to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone has 4 hands. Everyone has, a bluish black body. Everyone has, yellowish gold garments, etc. Right? Lord Vaikuntha is differentiated by having the Kasturba jewel and also the, what is it called? The tuft of hair on the chest, it's called the swastika? No, what is it called? Okay, anyway, there's one differentiation where Lakshmi Devi actually sits. It's called, it starts with S, not swastika, but...
Shika.
Anyway. Pardon?
Shika.
Not Shika. Shika is at the back of the head. Okay, anyway, so that's the only major differentiation between the Supreme Lord and the rest of the residents. Okay, but all of the rest of the residents, they are engaging in devotional service to the Lord. And they are engaging without any desires for sense gratification. Okay. They have no desires. Their only desire is to serve the Lord. Although every service has a particular result, the devotees never aspire for the fulfillment of their own desires. Oh, if I do a chamara, I will get this, etc. No, their desires were fulfilled just by rendering transcendental loving service.
Is it Srivasta?
Srivasta. Exactly.
I just searched on the net actually.
Srivasta. Okay, so that's the emblem on the Lord's chest where Lakshmi Devi also resides. Srivasta. So nowhere in the material world do you find a human being with 4 hands, right? Okay. And in Vaikuntha Lok, there's no occupation. The only occupation is the service of the Lord. All right. And the service is not rendered with any purpose. Right? Okay. So then we move on. In the material world, we have the 3 modes of material nature. Anyone remembers the 3 modes of material nature which constantly bind us into this material world? Anyone else? Let me do a cold call. Wow, we have 25 candidates today. Wonderful. Lalita Mataji, do you remember the 3 modes of material nature? No problem. Malti Mataji?
Maya, Hari Prabhu. Hari Krishna Prabhu. Maya.
Yeah, Maya binds us, but what are the 3 modes? There's the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. These 3 modes are constantly binding us into this world, right? So we need to come out. We need to elevate ourselves first to the mode of goodness. And then from goodness, we add Krishna or add devotional service so that it becomes mode of pure goodness. All right. But in the spiritual world, there is no traces of passion and ignorance. Only the mode of goodness. And even the mode of goodness is actually pure goodness or Suddh Sattva. All right. The Lord and his devotees are residing there with the same transcendental qualities. Okay. So the Lord, right, Vishnu, Krishna, he's the original person, and therefore he can only be understood by Vedic literature. So people who do not believe in God, they have not taken the clear intention of wanting to read the scriptures. But the scriptures are explaining this so wonderfully about who the Lord is, what are his activities, his features, his pastimes, etc. All right, the Lord is full of the uncontaminated mode of goodness. All right, there's no place for passion or ignorance. And therefore, the Lord can also assist us in elevating ourselves from goodness to pure goodness. And therefore, he can contribute to our religious progress. Okay, so this is what the Vaikuntha planets are. You can see over here, so many small Vaikuntha planets. Okay, Upendra, Vamana Dev, Padmanava, etc. Small, not small, they are huge. Okay, in this picture, they look small. All right. And then beyond all of these Vaikuntha planets, there is a huge lotus. And in that lotus is Goloka Vrindavan. where Krishna and Radharani and all the principal gopis are serving the divine couple. Okay. In those Vaikuntha planets, okay, there are many, many forests. If there are forests over here, there will also be forests in the spiritual world, because we are a reflection of what there is in the spiritual world, a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Okay, remember, whatever there is over here, it is also there, but ours is the perverted version. In those Vaikuntha planets, there are many forests which are very auspicious. In those forests, there are trees, all right, they are called desire trees. And in all, so they are called desire trees because they will not just produce one type of fruit. They can produce whatever the devotee is asking, not for herself, but asking for the service of the Lord. And therefore, they are called desire trees. They can fulfill all our desires. Right? And they are in all seasons, and they are filled with flowers and fruits, because everything is spiritual and everything is a person. All right? So when it's time for doing the arati for Krishna, all the flowers like malati, right? The roses, the jasmine, they will all come in front of the Lord, right? To participate in the arati. But they will allow Tulsi Maharani to actually go right in front to serve the Lord. Okay? Tulsi is just green in nature, just green color, but she's the most exalted of all the devotees. Right? So in some parampara, you know, they are called the impersonalists, where they believe that the Lord is just the energy. Just like how the four Kumaras, they started off by thinking that the Lord is just the energy. Even Sukadev Goswami was just thinking he's just the energy. All right. The Lord is there as a person, yes, but the energy is the most superior. Until Sukadev Goswami heard the two verses, right, which Anuj Prabhu has explained in our class. And similarly, the four Kumaras, when they saw the Supreme Lord lotus feet with Tulsi manjaris on his feet and sandalwood paste, the aroma of the sandalwood and the Tulsi manjaris just ignited the entire enthusiasm to worship the Supreme Person. And therefore they realized that, wow, the Lord as a person is much greater than just the energy of the Lord. So this formlessness as conceived by the impersonalists, all right, is therefore refuted in this verse. All right. In this verse is explained very nicely in 3.15.16 that the Lord is a person. Every item in the spiritual world is a person. All right. In the Vaikuntha planets, although everything is spiritual, everything has a particular form. The trees and the men, the ladies, they all have form. And because of all of them, although differently formed, they are all spiritual, and there's no difference between them. Actually, even in the material world, all right, at the spiritual level, there's no difference between an animal and a human and a plant. All right. But only a devotee with an equivision will be able to see this, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita. So moving forward, over here we travel by taxi, by Grab, right, by bus. But in the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants, they fly in their own aeroplanes, Vimana, all right, and they are accompanied by their wives and their consorts. And while they are in this Vimana, they are eternally singing of the activities of the Lord. Okay. And while singing the glories and the activities, they deride even the presence of the blossoming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant and laden with honey. So what it's saying is that because they are so pure, because they are not in the mode of passion, ignorance, and goodness, but they are in the mode of pure goodness, Therefore, even the smell of the most amazing perfumed smells from the flowers were not able to entice them. Why? Because they were singing the glories of the Lord. Singing the glories of the Lord, singing about the activities of the Lord was much, 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 much more sweeter than any of these other sort of distractions. And these aeroplanes, they are made of lapis, emerald, gold. And these aeroplanes are not like the 737 or 747. They can be so huge, like an island. All right. They can be like small mini islands floating around and going from one place to another. All right. No bus service over there. Don't have to walk also so much. Right. So all these Vaikuntha Vasis have their own airplanes. Any questions?
I have one question, Prabhuji.
Yes.
You had explained that beyond, like beyond the Vaikuntha planets, there is the huge lotus where, which is called Golok Vrindavan. This is described here in the Bhagavatam, but the original, source, is it in Brahma Samhita?
It's explained in the Bhagavatam. It's also explained in Brahma Samhita. Yes, there are some verses, Prabhuji, which explains where Brahmaji is actually reciting. Point to note is that we only have one small part of the Brahma Samhita, which was discovered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he went to one of the Kerala Vaishnava temples, and he actually found the rest of it was eaten up by termites. That was like probably the last copy of Brahma Samhita. And in the Brahma Samhita, it is explained, right? Yes, exactly. Now I remember. It's explained because it explains about the touchstones, right? The touchstones, everything you touch is like a touchstone. The desire fulfilling trees, the kalpatru trees, and then the cows are Surabhi cows who are just giving ever unending supply of milk. All right. And then what the gopis are doing, all of that is explained in the Brahma Samhita also. And then, how is Lord Ganesha serving the Supreme Lord? How is Goddess Durga serving the Supreme Lord? How is Lord Shiva serving the Supreme Lord? All of that is explained in this small little section of the Brahma Samhita. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay. So there's no concept of serving one's senses, all right, in Vaikuntha. It's all about serving the Lord, and they don't get into any fights amongst themselves, all right? And all of them, they just become automatically satisfied in the service of the Lord, all right? When the king of bees hum in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravaka, the swan, the parrots, the partridge, and the peacock. Which means that, right, all of these transcendental animals, you may call them, they are all devotees, and each devotee gives space for the service of another. All right. So when the bee is humming, all right, in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord. In fact, in Bhagavatam, there is a prayer of the bee. We will come to that later. Singing the glories of the Lord, there is temporary lull. No one else makes any other offering. They just allow the bee to fully satisfy the Supreme Lord. So such transcendental birds, they stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord through the bee. There's no difference between the birds there and the human residents. The situation in the spiritual sky is that everything is spiritual and everything is variegated, right? Therefore, for the Vaishnavas, color is amazing. When they see color, they remember the variegatedness of the spiritual world, right? The principles of devotional service beginning with hearing and chanting, are therefore very, very prominent in the Vaikuntha world. They are constantly hearing what their other counterparts, what the other co-devotees are doing in the service of the Lord. Okay. In the material world, even a donkey, an ass, enjoys his own sound, right? Okay. But in the Vaikuntha planets, the nice birds like the peacocks, etc., they prefer to hear the vibration of the glories from the bees. That's so nice. And then now comes to the flowers. Although flowering plants like the mandara, kunda, kurabaka, utpala, champaka, arna, punaga, nagakesara, bakula, lily, parijata flowers are full of amazing fragrances. They meaning each of them is a person, and each of them is still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulsi Maharani. For Tulsi is very special. All right. And therefore, Tulsi Maharani is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. Okay. Once again, just remember, in the spiritual world, there's no envy amongst the devotees. There's no envy even amongst the flowers. They are all conscious of the greatness of each other. Okay. Right. So I've just explained that. Right. And the ladies, all right. So we saw the men with 4 hands, with the nice crown, etc. So the Matajis, just read this. Be inspired. The ladies in the Vaikuntha planets are as beautiful as the goddess of fortune herself. Such transcendentally beautiful ladies, their hands playing with lotuses and their legs, bangles tingling, are sometimes seen sweeping the marble walls, which are bedecked at intervals with gold borders, in order to receive the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All right, so the Lakshmi Devis, the Lakshmis, the ladies in the Vaikuntha, they look like Lakshmi Devi, right? They have got lotuses in their hand. They are playing with the lotuses. At the same time, when the Lord is passing by, they will start also sweeping the marble wall. Hey, this is Vaikuntha, there's no dust. Then why are they sweeping? Why? Just to receive the grace of the Supreme Personality of God. All right, they are so eager to achieve the grace of the Lord just by sweeping. There's no dust, right? So Lakshmi Devi is called Chanchala, right, which means one who is not steady. And why is she called Chanchala? Because we find that a man who is very rich may become the poorest of the poor if the Lord so desires, right? Therefore, the wealth is Chanchala. It's there sometimes, and the next moment it can all disappear. For example, Ravana. Ravana took away Lakshmi Ji in the form of Sita to his kingdom. Was he happy? No. He had Lakshmi Ji with him. But he was never happy because he had taken her away from Krishna, from Ram. All right. So we cannot just take Lakshmi Ji without her consort Narayan, or without Ram, or without Krishna. All right. So Ravana took away Lakshmi Ji, Sita, to his kingdom, and instead of being happy by the grace of Lakshmi, his entire family and kingdom was vanquished. All right. Therefore, the Lakshmi in the house of Ravan is Chanchala, or unsteady. Right? In today's world, men of Ravan's class, they only want Lakshmi, they only want wealth without her husband Narayan. And therefore, they need to understand that in due time, all right, this wealth is unsteady. If it's not taken away at the time of death, it will be taken away before death. All right. In fact, forget about us. Even the goddess of fortune, she needs the Lord's grace in order to be happy. Even Brahmaji, the highest created being, he needs the Lord's grace in order to be happy. You look at Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva also wanted to be part of this Rasa Leela, and therefore he came, all right, dressed as a gopi. So like this, we can learn so much from the scriptures, Oh yeah, Prabhu. So coming to your point exactly, while I prepared this class, I had also written this. Similarly, in the Brahma Samhita, it stated that the ground on the Vaikuntha planet is made of touchstone. Thus, there is no need to sweep the floor in Vaikuntha, for there is hardly any dust on it. But still, in order to satisfy the Lord, the ladies there are always engaging in dusting the marble, right? Just to get the grace of the Lord. Thanks. All right. So, you see how we have spent the last 1 hour just discussing, or 40 minutes discussing the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it's so much regrettable that, unfortunate people, they do not discuss the description of Vaikuntha planets, but they engage in topics which are unworthy to hear. All right. How will the stock market do tomorrow? All right. Yeah. Temporary happiness. Those who give up the topics of Vaikuntha and take to the talk of the material world are thrown into the darkest region of ignorance. Right? People are interested in politics, economic development. Right? So only fortunate entities, living entities like all of us, right? We can hear about this. And if we can become interested in hearing more, in having a taste, then there is a chance that we may go back to the spiritual kingdom. But unless we understand the spiritual world, it's going to be difficult for us to understand. I mean, unless we understand the spiritual world, the potency of the Lord, the activities of the Lord, we will just remain in the cycle of birth and death in this material world. So just a nice segue. On Monday is Balaram Jayanti. All right. So Lord Balaram, he manifests himself in all the paraphernalia to support the worship of the Lord. So therefore, in your altar, the chamara is Balaram. The arti which you are doing, the utensils you are using for serving the Lord, they are all Balaram. The bed is actually Balaram. Anything which is any paraphernalia used in the service of the Lord is actually an expansion of Lord Balaram. So without the mercy of Balaram, we cannot reach Krishna. Right? We need the mercy of his servant before we can actually reach the master. So Monday is the Lord's appearance day. There will be Abhishek in Goranga Center, 13 Kaf Road. And then there will be a very nice lecture on the pastimes of Lord Balaram. Please come over. It's a Monday. I know it's going to be difficult, but the class will start at about 7 o'clock. If you can come a bit earlier, then there will be, the Abhishek of Krishna Balaram. In fact, Prabhupada was the one who actually installed the first deity of Krishna Balaram anywhere in the world. And therefore, Krishna Balaram is there in Vrindavan. Okay. Any questions before I move on? 15 more minutes, just bear with me. Okay, so please try to come. This Monday will be in Kaf Road. The following Monday is Sri Krishna Janmashtami. Right? I will not be in Singapore. I will be in Penang because my Guru Maharaj is there. So I will be there in Penang. And then the next day, which is Tuesday, is Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. So on Monday, Janmashtami, the celebrations will be at Singapore Khalsa Association. So Anuj Prabhu, can you send the details to everyone. And
Yes,
then
Prabhu.
on Tuesday is Prabhupada's appearance day. Not this coming Tuesday, the following Tuesday. One day after Krishna Janmashtami. And then there's normally a huge feast during lunchtime in the temple. No, but I think we celebrate in the evening. Anyway, we'll give you the details. Because on Janmashtami, all the devotees, they normally fast. Okay. All except me. I cannot fast. I can't control my mind. My whole system goes haywire. So I don't fast. I'll just keep Ekadasi. All right. But if you can fast, you want to try it, do it. Okay. So that's, we'll continue. So now Brahmaji is explaining, my dear Devatas. Okay. You have all come to me. Remember, Diti is pregnant with Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, right? And because of the energy emanating from them, the entire universe is in darkness. So all the Devatas went up to Lord Brahma and asked him for help because he's the secondary creator. And therefore, what does Brahma say? My dear demigods, the human form of life is of such importance that we also desire to have such life. For in human form, one can attain perfect religious truth and knowledge. If one in this human form of life does not understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his abode, it is to be understood that he is very much affected by the influence of external nature and he has wasted this entire life. And what about 99% of people who do not get into Krishna consciousness? Why? Because they have not received the causeless mercy, all right, of a devotee. They have not received the causeless mercy. They did not have this Shukriti. Sometimes this Shukriti can also be given just by a pure devotee who is passing by. All right, because the pure devotee is spiritual in nature, he can therefore give this to us, and therefore it starts our spiritual life. Right? So therefore, it is also all of our responsibility. Since we know now about the Supreme Lord, we need to go and share this with others and also assist them, because the human form is a great boon. If our friends and ourselves, if we do not orchestrate our life in pursuance of devotional service, what is going to happen is we may not come back as humans. We may come back in the lower form of lives. We may go into the lower planetary system. So the human form is a great boon because it is the most suitable boat for crossing over the ocean of nascence. The poor dog cannot know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The buffaloes, the lions, the cat, none of them can understand the scriptures. It is only the humans who can do this. Therefore, the human form is like the most suitable boat for crossing over this nascence ocean. If this human form is the most suitable boat, then who is the captain of the boat? Can you all please type in? Who do you think is the captain of the boat? Let's look at the chat. If this body is a suitable boat, intelligence, guru. Okay, wonderful, right? So, the spiritual master or the guru is the captain of the boat. The spiritual master can guide the boat on how to go to the final destination. And what is the favorable wind for floating over the ocean of nascence? You know, This is, just imagine this, the olden days boat, okay, which goes by the wind, right? So you have a captain of the boat who is the guru. Then who is the wind, or what is the wind, or what represents the wind? Association, very good, Shalini Mataji. What else? Chanting, very good, Chitra Mataji. What else? Our prayer, okay. What else? Devotional service, amazing. Mercy from pure devotees, very good. What else? Okay, all of the above you have spoken about, yes, plus the scriptures. The scriptures are the favorable wind for floating over the ocean of nations. Otherwise, we are under the influence of Maya. Okay. Thank you very much, Bhagwanji. Thank you for participating, all of you. Let's move on. And for us, all right, our chanting, our reading of the scriptures should reach such a stage where what Bhagavatam explains in verse number 25, persons whose bodily features change in ecstasy and who breathe heavily, who perspire due to hearing the glories of the Lord, whose hair stands at ends, all right, and who just gets exuberated, okay, even though they do not care for meditation and other austerities, persons whose bodily features change, all right, in ecstasy, right, when they are hearing this, they would have the possibility of one day going back to the spiritual kingdom, right? So that is one of the symptoms. But a more important symptom of knowing whether one is gradually improving in devotional service. What is the symptom? Anush Prabhu, please don't type in. I want to know, what is the symptom of someone who is engaging in spiritual activities? What's the symptom of someone who is chanting, meditating, doing arti, reading the scriptures? What is like the first test? Okay, the litmus test. Shalini Mataji, exactly, detachment. All right, the person will feel less and less and less attached to the material. Wonderful. Thank you, Shalini Mataji. Amazing. All right. So let's move on. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 11th chapter, verse 12, that anyone who is Krishna conscious is endowed with all the good qualities of the Devatas. Okay. So before we can get to the spiritual world, we need to ask ourselves, let's do a quick self-assessment. Okay. Whether we have these 26 qualities or not. Okay. Brahmaji then confirms herewith that only persons who have developed these desirable qualities can enter the kingdom of God. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, these 26 qualities is explained. Okay. So one by one, can you all please read them out? Anush Prabhu, start with the first one.
He is very kind.
Okay, so all of you ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how kind are we? Malti Mataji, can you read the second one?
He does not quarrel with anyone.
Okay, so we ask ourselves on a scale of 1 to 10, do we quarrel with others? I'm a big fighter cock, so gone. Next one, Ankur Prabhu.
He accepts Krishna conscious as the highest goal of life.
Right. So on a scale of 1 to 10, do we have that determination, that clear intention? Do we have that faith that, yes, this is the highest goal of life? Ask ourselves on a scale of 1 to 10, where are we? It's all right if we are not there yet. All right. But we need to build this slowly.
Yeah, so we have a belief, very strong belief on this, but yeah, are we following on a day-to-day basis? That's not that.
Yeah, at least it has started. So that's amazing. All right. Rome was not built in a day, Prabhu. Let's be kind to ourselves. Lah. Okay. But don't be too kind until we tell ourselves, kal dekhlenge. Start as soon as possible. Or become more determined as time goes by. Okay. He is equal to everyone. All right. Chitra Mataji. Next one. Number 5.
No one can find fault in his character.
All right. Ask ourselves. Okay. Next one. Banti Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, he is magnanimous.
Wonderful. Magnanimous. Are we magnanimous? I don't know. I think we need to we need to define what magnanimous is also. Lah. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Prabhuji. Deepa Mataji. Next one.
Mild.
All right. Very mild, Very nice. Are we on a scale of 1 to 10? Let's ask. Deepa Mataji. Next one. Dorothy Mataji.
Always clean internally and externally.
Wonderful. That means our mind, we are able to control our mind at the same time, even externally, right? We are in the mode of goodness. We don't, have so much of dirt around our house, etc. And then that negative energy in the mode of ignorance, of passion will affect us. And therefore, the devotee is clear that internally I'm clear, clean, and externally also. Right? Thank you very much, Dorothy Mataji. Karuna Mataji, are you able to unmute and say? Okay, never mind. Chris Prabhu? Kishan?
He does not profess to possess anything in the material world.
All right. So, which means that he has everything, but at the same time, he's not attached to it. Just like what Queen Kunti says, the Lord can only be achieved if one is materially exhausted. Wonderful. Lalita Mataji, next one.
He's a benefactor to all living entities.
Exactly. So, which means that, we need to ask ourselves, are we para dukha dukhi? Other person's difficulty also pains us? Or are we para dukha sukhi? When someone else is happy, we are not happy. Or are we a para sukha dukhi? When someone else is in difficulty, we are happy. All right. Ask ourselves in a scale of 1 to 10. Wonderful. Bhagwanji. Bhagwanji. Okay, never mind. Madhuri.
He is peaceful and is a soul completely surrendered to Krishna.
Wonderful. All right. So is the person peaceful and is he solely surrendered to Krishna? And then Manoj Prabhu.
He has no material desire to fulfill.
All right. So we already explained this. No material desire. He has everything at the same time. He's materially exhausted, right? Then next one, Priyanka Mataji.
He has no material desire to fulfill.
And the next one?
He is meek and humble.
All right. So let's look at ourselves also. Ravindra Prabhu, can you just move on for the next 5?
Next 5, okay. He's always steady.
Right.
And has conquered the sensual activities.
All right.
He does not eat more than required to maintain body and soul together.
I have a difficulty in that. Next.
He is never mad after material identity.
All right. So this is like, always seeking validation, So as devotees, We need to reach a certain stage where we are like doing something just for the love of Krishna and not seeking validation anymore.
And the last one, he is respectful to all others.
Okay, wonderful. Reet and Simon.
He is respectful to all others and does not demand respect for himself.
Wonderful, Reet. Very nice. And Shimon next to you?
He is very brave.
Can you repeat? He is?
He is very brave.
Number one is yours. Are you reading? Oh, he's very grave. Okay, very good. Very good. Yeah. Always serious. Dhira. Dhira. All right. Very nice. Shalini Mataji? 22.
Yeah, he very compassionate.
Okay, just like you. Wonderful. Next one. Sharda Mataji?
He's very friendly.
Wonderful. Shefali?
He is poetic.
All right, wonderful. Poetic in, you know, in writing prayers to the Lord. All right. And then next one, Sonia Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Number 25. Just read out.
He is expert in all activities and he is silent in nonsense.
Okay, wonderful. Right. So these are all the 26 qualities, you know, which a devotee, an aspiring devotee will need, because Brahmaji says that only persons who have developed these desirable qualities can enter in the kingdom of God. All right. And it's very important that also we free ourselves from the 10 offenses of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Right. So we have done a class on this. Right. You know, earlier on we read, right, that these symptoms of happiness, tears in the eye, giving you goosebumps, etc., when you are reading the scriptures or when you are chanting, right? These are all devotees, exalted devotees, you know, symptoms. For us, it's quite hard to reach that stage, all right? But Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that if one does not develop these symptoms, all right, it means that possibly we are still, you know, probably in the neophyte state, we are still doing a little bit of offense, etc. But there is a remedy. There is a remedy. And chapter 8, verse 31 of Adi Leela explains that anyone who takes shelter of the most munificent form of the Lord, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, anyone who takes his shelter and just chants the name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, he can be freed from all offenses. So there is hope. If we take shelter, all right, if we, you know, worship the most munificent form of the Lord, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? If we try to understand more about this incarnation, if we do devotional service to him, if we, you know, try to live to his teachings in the Shishastakam, then there is hope. All right, there is hope. So with that, we come to the end of today's class. Next week, I will be in Penang. So I may not be giving a class next week. Next week, there's no class, but I will send you lots of recordings already coming from Penang right now. Guru Maharaj is there. He's giving a lot of classes. Right? So, yeah. Wishing all of you a wonderful Balram Purnima on Monday. So please try to make it. I know it's going to be very crowded in Gita Reading Society, but try to make it. And then the following week, there's our Krishna Janmashtami. Krishna says, anyone who understands my pastimes, my birth, and my activities will not have to come back into this material world again. So nice. right? So let's not miss the chance of being part of the celebrations of Sri Krishna Janmashtami. I remember when we were in India for 5 years, we made it a point to go to one dham every year. We were in Vrindavan in 1 year, and that was the time when the temple received a bomb threat, and it was so crowded at about 11 o'clock. The authorities had closed all the gates and they never allowed anyone to come into the temple and anyone to go out. And the authorities has mentioned that, there is a bomb threat, and they are, combing the entire place. And then 10 minutes later, we actually heard that there was a real bomb blast in Manipur temple. And the Guru Maharaj there, he actually sustained some injury. So we were all in Vrindavan, and the kirtan was becoming more and more and more intense. And my wife, my children, and myself, we just sat at one corner and we told the Lord that if we have to go, we will all go together. But there was no bomb blast. It was just a crazy threat. Then we went to Dwarka. One of the 5 years we went to Dwarka for Janmashtami. We were so tired by the time we drove from Ahmedabad all the way to Dwarka. And then we were saying, okay, 11:30, we will wake up for Janmashtami and then walk down to the temple, which is nearby. We slept until 12 o'clock, and then we heard the bells were ringing, so we couldn't go. So like this, it was amazing stay in India for 5 years. We used to go to all, the beautiful dhams. For 1 year, we were in Jagannath Puri also. We just miss all of this. Okay, so Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Ki Jai.
Jai.
Thank you very much for joining. So nice. We have 25 families today on the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Padmalochan Prabhuji ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Shraddha ki Jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhu. Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Pradeep Prabhuji ki jai.
Hare Krishna.